I'm Rachel. I married my husband, David, 3 years ago. However, I am estranged from my mother-in-law. At one point, David received a message from his sister, Emma, and we decided to meet up as a couple. To be honest, Emma and David aren't particularly close. But from my perspective, I thought she was a sweet and considerate younger sister. Moreover, Emma usually didn't contact us for trivial matters, so I was worried about what it could be about. I'm actually getting married soon. Emma has been dating a guy named Alex for a year. He's still in his early 20s but has been showing her bridal magazines and insisting on picking out rings, suggesting it's time to get married. Even before proposing, Emma, not one to dislike assertive men, seemed to have decided to marry him. Emma is in her late 20s, about a decade younger than David. I sincerely congratulated her with a congratulations, but deep down, I was worried. David probably felt the same. I see, that explains why you called us. It's about Mom, right? Upon saying that, Emma nodded. I remember Mom's behavior at your wedding very well. Since then, even our relatives have been keeping their distance. And Mom has always been so clingy to me. If she finds out about my boyfriend, who knows what she might do. She once barged into my ex-boyfriend family's home, demanding we break up. While serving Emma coffee, I couldn't help but say, "Your mom is really difficult, isn't she?" Emma responded with a dejected, "It's really embarrassing to be related." David seriously advised, "If you really want to marry him, you might have to cut ties with Mom." It's understandable why David would say that. The reason we became estranged from our mother-in-law was our wedding. The mother-in-law, Julie, is what you'd call a toxic parent. She gave birth to David at 18 but was abandoned by her boyfriend of the same age, leaving David with her parents and neglecting him for a long time. David waited for his mother, who never visited, but she went on to marry another man and gave birth to Emma. Years later, following her divorce, she took David back as a high school student, but only because she wanted money. For Julie, David was more of a cash cow than a son. She made him contribute his part-time job earnings to the household and doted only on Emma. Without any care for David, Julie subjected him to terrible treatment. She mercilessly sold his cherished model kits and forbade him from hanging out with friends. David became understandably distrustful of women, but gradually opened up to me, saying, "Rachel is different from Mom. If Mom is a demon, then Rachel is an angel, no, a goddess. I'm far from a goddess, neither in virtue nor beauty, but compared to the Julie, I can see why I'd appear that way. She was truly the worst. She strongly opposed our marriage. The reason was simple. She cursed at me, saying, 'Then David's salary won't come to me anymore. You thief of a cat.' My parents were even asked by Julie, 'If you really want them to marry, then pay me. How about $30,000? That should be fine.' David yelled, 'Don't be ridiculous.' As if such a demand would ever be accepted. And he deeply apologized to my parents, saying, 'I'm terribly sorry.' If he hadn't, our marriage would have likely been called off. I loved David, and my parents acknowledged, David isn't a bad person. However, David began to say, 'I want to cut ties with Mom. It's embarrassing to have her as a parent.' Then came the wedding day. Julie showed up as if she were the main attraction, wearing a red dress. She wore rings adorned with diamonds, rubies, sapphires, and more, which looked surprisingly unsuitable on her. Even when David yelled, 'The main characters today are us, no, Rachel. Why are you trying to stand out?' Julie was unfazed. She retorted, 'I didn't get to have a wedding when I gave birth to you, so it's fine for me to be the star today, isn't it?' My parents were utterly dumbfounded. My mother sighed, and David bit his lip until it bled. Naturally, my relatives weren't pleased, and David's relatives were equally aghast. I too was grimacing at Julie's outrageous behavior, and by this point, I had a bad feeling about everything. Still, canceling the ceremony wasn't an option, so all I could do was pray that Julie wouldn't cause any trouble. Please God, could you keep Julie calm until the ceremony is over? For the first time, I found myself praying. Perhaps my prayers were heard because nothing happened during the ceremony. However, the incident occurred after the ceremony ended. Julie declared, "This is our family's celebration, and even though Rachel might be joining our family reluctantly, All the gifts should rightfully be mine, and she swiped everything. While I was stunned by her actions, David chased after his mother to retrieve the gifts. However, Julie was nowhere to be found. Her agility was akin to that of a cat burglar. Despite David's numerous calls, she didn't answer and had completely disappeared. I doubted I would ever meet anyone as unreasonable as her in my life. Such was the extent of my disbelief in her actions. In front of my dumbfounded relatives and his family, David said, "I am truly sorry. I will cut ties with that woman. Please. Just don't ask for a divorce." Then David apologized to us with tears in his eyes. Everyone reassured him, "You're not to blame. The problem lies with her, not you. There's no need for a divorce." I felt sorry for David and couldn't forgive her. For David's sake, we decided to cut ties. Let's consider those gifts as severance pay. If it means we can cut ties, it's a small price to pay. And so, David severed ties with his mother. The relatives also decided to have no further dealings with her. Then, David sought legal advice. He went to the extent of having legal documents prepared for the estrangement. When his mother, having squandered the celebration gifts, returned, he immediately made her sign. I couldn't feel relieved. Because for David, who grew up without a father, she was his only parent. Was it really okay for him to sever ties just to marry me? Did I cause him to lose his family? With these thoughts, I suddenly felt lonely and started to cry. Then, a white cat named Snowball jumped onto my lap. This cat was a stray that often visited our garden. Whenever I seemed lonely, it would always come and sit on my lap like this. Right, it's for the best. It's for our happiness. I reassured myself, continuously petting Snowball. Thank you, Snowball, for always being there. Though we completely cut off contact with Julie, the situation was different for Emma, who was doted on by her. Emma, a model-like beauty who could grace the covers of fashion magazines and resembled her mother in her youth, was different. As for David, he could be described as the epitome of an ordinary son. Given Emma's nature, she has been approached by more than 100 men, but she has only dated a few of them. However, none of these relationships lasted more than a month. Her mother would interfere to prevent anyone from taking her precious daughter away. Emma once received a marriage proposal, but her mother barged in unexpectedly and threw the engagement ring into a river. The man said, "I don't want to become part of a family with such a mother-in-law. Let's call off the wedding," and left. After about an hour of berating her mother, a calmer Emma finally declared, "That's why I'm planning to marry him without telling Mom. I won't let her interfere this time," and left. As soon as the front door closed, I couldn't help but ask David, "Do you think she won't be interfered with?" "It's impossible," David replied succinctly. "It's impossible to get married without Julie finding out. After all, Emma is living with Julie." It was a miracle that she had managed to keep it hidden so far. Emma and Julie live together. Julie, being a stay-at-home mom, relies on Emma's income for living, so there's no way she'd let go of her golden goose and beloved daughter. Moreover, due to Julie, Emma has zero life skills. She has never cooked a meal or even washed her own underwear. Julie insists, "You don't need to do anything. You're tired from work, just rest." What if you get hurt? Preventing her from doing any household tasks. I'd like to see someone who gets injured washing underwear. However, getting married brings not only personal but also family issues into the mix. The biggest issue was how to explain it to his parents. That was the major problem. I've heard that it's not uncommon for couples to have a small wedding by themselves, so maybe they could keep it a secret. But what about after? Even if they manage to get married, I can't imagine that Julie allows them to live together. Considering the terrible harassment she directed at David and me, it's terrifying to think of what she might do to Alex. If he's lucky, he'll only end up being another source of income for her, but I doubt it'll be that simple. David mentioned Emma is always looking out for her own comfort. She's telling us about her wedding plans because she wants us to mediate if something happens. It's naive thinking, as always, and it reminded me. Didn't she fail to help us during our wedding? Instead, I recall her enjoying the food left by others while we were having a hard time. Does she find joy in others' misfortune? Can she really protect her husband like that? If she can't, she doesn't deserve to be married. It might be better to call off the engagement now. That would prevent unhappy people from being involved. I don't care what happens to them. All I care about is protecting my beloved wife for life. Having declared this, David, perhaps embarrassed, blushed and looked down. I love David so much for that. That's why I chose him. Months later, we heard from Emma again. She wanted to introduce her boyfriend this time. Has Julie not found out yet? Well, if she's serious, I guess we can support her, said David, so I decided to be positive about Emma's marriage as well. But then, a problem arose. Emma's boyfriend, Alex, turned out to be quite the character. He looked like an athletic type, manly and cool. But David is cooler. As we listened to how they met and started chatting, Alex began to express concern. She never introduces me to her family. So I thought maybe she's just playing with me. The mood started to shift. No, that's not it. Actually, my mom is kind of crazy. Emma hurriedly explained, but we were shocked since she hadn't mentioned anything about her mother to Alex. Was she planning to go through the wedding without saying anything? I ended up explaining the craziness of Julie on behalf of the tongue-tied David, including his upbringing and the wedding incident. Alex's face grew paler as I spoke. 10 minutes later, after explaining how dangerous Julie was, Alex muttered, "Terrible." I agreed, truly terrible. But then Alex said, "No, it's you who's terrible. To lie like that. You're exaggerating too much." I was speechless. David looked just as stunned. "You're opposed to our marriage, aren't you? That's why you're making up such unbelievable stories. There's no way such a person exists in this world." Both Emma and David were baffled by his remarks and were momentarily frozen in disbelief. As Alex grew more agitated, he exclaimed, "I feel sorry for Julie. Rachel, don't you have any sense of being a good daughter-in-law? Isn't it shameful to bully your mother-in-law instead? Bullying Julie? What is he even talking about?" I have no idea why the word sense would come up in this context. It was as if I was conversing with an alien. A wife should honor her mother-in-law. She's just being a bit mean because her precious daughter is being taken away. Emma is so adorable. After all, you need to be kind in such situations. So, am I supposed to back down even when I'm not in the wrong? We estranged ourselves because it's beyond such simple issues. Why can't he understand that? It's because of people like you that we can't get married. Please be kinder to your mother-in-law. I'll help you reconcile. Alex lectured me nonsensically, complicating our relationship further. It's unbelievable to encounter another person like Julie in this world. Months passed. Alex forcefully planned a wedding. It was a modest affair, attended only by close family members, friends, and relatives. I thought any mischief by Julie would be minimized in such a small setting. I was naively optimistic when I received the invitation. David repeatedly asked Emma, "Are you sure this is okay?" However, she could only reply, "Maybe." Not exactly reassuring. As we arrived at the venue, reminiscing about our own wedding, I noticed a place card with Julie's name at our table. Oh, so she found out in the end. Well, it was bound to happen, I muttered. David then said, "Alex insisted it's unthinkable not to invite her to the wedding. It's bound to be a disaster." I nodded in agreement. Yesterday, Alex couldn't keep it to himself anymore and told her. Seriously, he shouldn't have meddled. That woman refers to Julie. Since then, David no longer calls Julie by her name. Minutes later, Julie arrived in wedding-appropriate attire, a change from last time. However, she was accompanied by an unbelievable guest. An unidentified baby. The unexpected arrival of Julie caused a stir among the relatives and other guests. She then murmured grievances about Alex, head bowed. It's eerie. The fact that she's holding a baby makes it all the more unsettling. As the venue buzzed with anticipation of her inevitable actions, the MC declared, "Please welcome the bride and groom." And festive music began to play. For a moment, everyone forgot about Julie as the venue erupted in cheers and applause. Emma and Alex appeared at the entrance, spotlighted. Julie suddenly looked up and shouted, "This baby is ours. So break up with my daughter and give me child support," as she confronted Alex. I chased after her. Alex exclaimed, "Whoa," and the crowd around them stirred with murmurs. I quickly caught up, took the baby from her, and restrained her. But she struggled, and I accidentally threw her. Oops, I went a bit too far. It's been a while since I've done this. By the time I regretted my actions, Julie had crashed into a table full of dishes before hitting the wall. You see, I was a wrestling girl from elementary through high school. Throwing a grown woman was nothing for me, who used to toss and turn adults. Maybe I just got a bit carried away after such a long break? Reflection time. If only I had thrown her at my wedding. Feeling guilty about ruining the food, I thought so. I'll offer to pay for the damages later. Julie, caught off guard, looked bewildered. Luckily, she didn't seem to be hurt too badly. Good, good. As Julie tried to get up unsteadily, I swiftly tripped her. Are you trying to ruin the ceremony, Julie? And whose baby is that? Surely, it can't actually be Alex's child, right? I looked at Alex, who was vigorously shaking his head. Then Julie blurted out, "Yes, that's right. I just borrowed this baby from around here. I thought if I claimed it was Alex's, I could get child support and make him break up with my daughter. Two birds with one stone." Everyone was speechless at her unbelievable statement. "We estranged ourselves from you after you ran off with all the wedding gifts last time. What do you plan to do now?" I raised my voice so Alex's parents could hear. The room fell silent. Julie's face turned beet red. Alex's father then glared at him and said, "Of course, we're cutting ties." "That's okay, with you, right?" "Absolutely. I'd hate to have anything more to do with such a despicable person." "You're okay with that too, right?" "Obviously. So, Mom, thanks for everything till now. As of today, we're severing our parent-child relationship," Emma declared, cutting ties. Alex then came over to me and said, "You were right, Rachel. I apologize for what I said before. I'm truly sorry. Really now. Listen, from now on, you have to protect Emma from her. If you can't do that, you'll end up just like her, remember that." "I'll take it to heart, Rachel." It seemed Alex was impressed by my skillful throw. Well, I'm not feeling too bad about it, so I decided I'll treat him kindly as my brother-in-law from now on. I gave Emma a good lecture for trying to go through with the wedding without telling Julie. She was in tears as she reflected, so I doubt something like this will ever happen again. I decided to apologize to the chef for ruining the food. The chef gave a wry smile and said, "It's not your fault, it's hers," and forgave me. We then enjoyed the remaining food, and the cake-cutting ceremony went on. Of course, Julie wasn't there. Because she was taken away by the police on suspicion of kidnapping. Apparently, one of the relatives had discreetly called the police. To that unknown relative, well done. Somehow, the ceremony concluded safely. After that, David apologized to me. "I'm sorry, I couldn't do anything. I always say I'll protect you no matter what, yet when it comes down to it, I feel like a failure as a husband." "No, that's not true. I'm always being saved by you. Please stay by my side forever, my wonderful husband." I hugged David. We spent a passionate night together. Months later, Emma and Alex consulted a lawyer and had legal documents prepared for estrangement. Julie could have been sentenced to more than 3 years in prison for kidnapping, but the baby's parents decided to settle, as the baby was unharmed. After being released from detention, Julie signed the estrangement papers, effectively losing her entire family. She got what she deserved. Emma and Alex, now estranged from Julie, seem to be living happily. Perhaps influenced by my lecture that day, they visit me once a month to consult on various matters. I'm happy to be relied upon, but I wish they'd decide on their furniture arrangement by themselves. As for Julie, who lost everything, it seems she's been living a lonely life on her pension since then. Now, her only companions appear to be stray cats. 3 years later, both our families were blessed with children. It's all thanks to cutting ties with her. We laughed together, referring to them. I hope this happiness lasts forever. So I thought, as I petted a white cat sleeping comfortably on the porch.